Okay, so I got beta access for Neverness to Everness, so I figured I might as well make an overview in the game as of closed beta test 2. Now, before we start, you can see a disclosure at the bottom of the screen, but since gacha gamers don't read, allow me to verbally tell that to whoever's watching. Game is still in development. This does not represent final quality. Basically, everything is still subject to change, so do proceed with that in mind at all times. If you ever played or maybe watched footages of the CBT2, you would see that the game has huge potential, but it still has so much room for improvement. Although I'm sure the devs themselves know this better than anyone. Or do they? Anyways, I have played the game for about 70 hours at the point of making this video, and I'll be sharing to you guys what I managed to understand and ultimately think about the game at its current state. Okay, so first things first, we have the intro of the game. You can skip this part if you want, but long story short, game starts with all hell breaking loose and our MC somehow miraculously puts an end to the disaster. However, in return, they will lose their memories prior the event. Would you look at that? Very classic gacha game MC. MC would then be brought to this very important looking lady and we would be assigned to a group in the meantime. The group's name is Avon, where you will meet your new family. All is well and your job in Avon is to be an appraiser, and as the word suggests, you will be assessing and containing these things called anomalies. Objects, animals, or things that have their own free will born from... You know what, I don't actually know. But yeah, sometimes the anomalies are causing inconvenience and others are even harmful. Basically, you and the people at Avon are some sort of detectives searching for, sometimes fighting with anomalies, and your mission is to either contain or eliminate them. The coverage of the main story on the CBT2 revolves around this idea, but I do like how they inserted the goofiness on some of the scenes. Now, with that as our MC's background, we have an excuse, a reasonable cause to wreak havoc in the city whenever anomalies are involved. For instance, we have this bounty system where we have to hunt down and contain anomalies all over the map. Anomalies are classified from class 1 to class 5, at least for now, and of course the higher the class, the greater the threat. Although higher class doesn't necessarily mean tougher enemy to beat, because not all of these anomalies can be contained through combat. Some of them will teleport you inside an instance where you will have to solve puzzles or mysteries in order to clear the bounty. There are even those where you have to do both, solve the puzzle first and then beat the anomaly. I gotta say I'm a fan of the brain teasers, but it's not like the combat ones are lacking either. This one, for example, took me by surprise since I was just exploring the map, but then out of nowhere I was dragged into this whale's flashback episode, then straight to a domain expansion type of thing. My point here is with so many objects or animals out there, they can literally cook lots and lots of cool bounties. Imagination is the limit for this one, and I really hope that they commit to this system because they are only one-time encounters, and I feel like there's not much enemies to see around the map. Furthermore, some of the anomalies that you can hunt in here will drop rewards that you can use to upgrade display furniture on your home, apartment, or mansions, which will grant you different sorts of buffs for overworld and combat use. Speaking of which, let's cover a little bit of the combat system. Now I don't really want to dive too deep on the combat mechanics yet since we are still at CBT2 and it's very likely that changes will still be made along the way. They literally didn't add a proper combat tutorial for this beta, which more or less proves that nothing is set in stone yet. So aside from the usual basic attack, skill, ultimate, and dodge counter, we also get a parry system, and as far as I've seen, there are 4 ways to parry. First one is the normal attack parry. Second one is the plunge attack parry. Third is the skill parry. And fourth one is the swap parry. All of the current characters have a meter beside their HP and ultimate skill, which we call the Esper Cycle bar or meter. Attacking will gradually charge your Esper Cycle meter, while successfully parrying an attack will immediately fully charge the meter. The charge rate is decided by the stat called cycle rate, which means the more cycle rate, the faster you charge. This also means character like RMC and Fadia, who has 100 cycle rate in their skill, will also fully charge the meter once they use their skills. Once fully charged, the suitable character in your squad will glow up, ready to be swapped, triggering an Esper Cycle reaction. NTE's element system is composed of 6 elements: Cosmos, Anima, Incantation, Chaos, Psyche or Psych, and Lakshana, with 2 adjacent ones triggering a reaction off of each other. We're not going into details of the effects of each reaction because, as I've mentioned, they are still subject to changes, so for now, just knowing the existence of the Esper Cycle system should be more than enough. Just be advised that this is a core mechanic for combat, since this is a gacha game and team comps matter, like a lot. The problem with the combat is how janky the movesets are. It just looks stiff from time to time and it doesn't really feel great at the moment. With its current state, I'm sure everybody can agree that combat in NTE is on the weak side in terms of player experience. Moving on, let's take a look at character progression. There are like 6 things to consider in terms of building your characters in NTE. We have appraisal level, which is tied to our hunter level. We can increase our hunter level by doing quests, hunting anomalies and weekly bosses, going into instance dungeons or called the anomaly zones, and of course, there's the daily missions as well. As stated here, at hunter level 10, 20, 30, 40 and so on, our appraisal level is increased by 1 accordingly. New appraisal level determines the level cap of your characters, which in turn sets the limit of your character ascension level. Furthermore, your character skill set or Esper abilities upgrade limit is based on the ascension level. It sounds quite confusing now that I think about it, but here's how it is in a nutshell. I am at hunter level 30. This means my appraisal level is 3. This allows me to level up my characters to level 60, which is ascension level 4, and with this ascension, I can upgrade my Esper abilities up to level 7. Next, we have the arc, which I consider as the weapon in this game. It has substats and an arc effect, which will only trigger once equipped to characters that's compatible with the arc. The arc's level cap is also determined by your appraisal level, and as for duplicates, you can mix them with an existing arc to slightly improve its buffs. Then we have awakening for the characters. We can increase this by having duplicate copies of the character. Each awakening grants a different effect to your character, and at A3 and A6, there's also bonus resonance effects. The cool thing with NTE's awakening system is that you can actually remove and re-equip the awakening level for your characters. This will be useful if you really want to see the difference in strength between each awakening, or if you just want to take a screenshot of your character and post #F2P by the way. Kidding aside, this can serve as a tool for the sweaty players as well to further assist them in limit testing each characters. Last and not least, we have the console, where you will have to pray to the RNG gods once again because, oh man, the drop rates for the cartridges is RNG, its main attribute is RNG, and the substats are also RNG. There's a guarantee system for which module piece or Tetris block you can get, but its substats are RNG. And farming the currency to pull for modules is going to be a nightmare since it requires the in-game stamina, which is called character pixels. By the way, the upgrade materials for the character progression can all be farmed on instance dungeons called the anomaly zones, and it will also require character pixels. As of CBT2, the refresh rate of character pixels is 1 pixel per 6 minutes, and the storage cap is 180 pixels. Clearing one anomaly zone and claiming the rewards will cost you 30 pixels. Weekly boss rewards, which you need as well for upgrades, will require 60 pixels, but there's a limit of 3 claims per week. I sure hope they add a stamina overflow storage system just like in other gacha games, because that's going to be 6 anomaly zone clears per day if you only log in once, and I feel like building characters will take too long like this. We do have this denoise solution which gives 60 pixels upon use, but I'm guessing that I only have plenty of this because it's a beta. Okay, with the tedious explanations out of the way, let's proceed with the fun stuff. Let's not dilly-dally and just jump straight to the wanted or warrant system. Violations in the city will accumulate warrant, and when the warrant exceeds a certain threshold, you will get the wanted status. These violations include stealing, hitting citizens or police officers, and crashing into cars. At 1 star, police officers will go crazy and chase you to the ends of the earth. At 2 stars, on top of the police car, drones in the shape of small police cars will also be chasing and shooting you down. At 3 stars, however, close your eyes and accept your fate, since you will be dragged into a driving school by the Justice Executioner, which is a giant police car anomaly. I'm not sure if it's possible to beat this thing, but one can only try. Once you get wiped out or get arrested, you will be given 2 choices, which is either to pay a fine or not pay. If you refuse to pay, you will be on parole for 15 full minutes, so honestly, just pay the fine, because it's only a few fonts, which is the currency used for day-to-day expenses. So now the question is how to lower your warrant. We can do this by hiding from the sight of police officers, and if you own an apartment, one of the anomaly furniture can actually remove your warrant level entirely. This leads us to the next topic, which is owning properties. In order to purchase houses, we're gonna have to go to any nearby property agency, although currently the Leon Estate Group is the only one available on the entire map. Here, we can choose from 5 different properties, from a cute apartment room to an entire villa, which costs like 4 times the most expensive car at the moment. Each house comes with different sets of anomaly furniture, which will grant you different sorts of buffs for overworld and combat use, such as less stamina usage, permanent increased crit damage, and the one we just went over, which removes the wanted status. Aside from the houses, you can also purchase stores from realtors, which you can manage yourself, or you can just assign some of your characters to watch the shop for free while you get all the revenue. Now remember the life skills on Esper ability that we didn't touch earlier. Each of your characters usually have unique passive abilities that can help your businesses. Yes, plural, because you can own more than one store, which means more passive income. Upgrade materials for the life skills of your characters can be farmed from city commissions, which will require a different type of stamina called, well, city stamina. Most of the commissions will be delivery of goods, where your driving skills will be put to the test because the amount of reward will depend on how fast and undamaged the goods are. This brings us to another topic, which is vehicles and driving. If you've barely seen or heard footages of NTE, I'm sure part of what piqued your interest is the urban life and the cars, because let's be honest, a lot of people have been dreaming of an anime GTA for so long now, myself included of course. But here comes the important question. How is the controls and the feel of driving in the game? Now, the controls itself isn't that bad, although I've heard that using a controller is better than keyboard. I think the problem lies with the sensitivity of the steering and the vehicles themselves. I mean, car modification is possible, and some of them actually helps in making the car drive like, a car. But some of them are like so light that it can do a full spin with a simple bump, and yet the tires stick to the ground like they're glued or something, even though you're going like 200 km per hour on a ramp. The drifting on both cars and motorcycle will take a bit to get used to, but once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to avoid more collisions. Does the driving experience need more work? Definitely. Like I've said, it's not that bad, but it just needs some polishing since it greatly affects the overall exploration experience of the game. There are even racing challenges in the game, so more the reason to give it some improvements. As for the exploration, I can't say much since I didn't actually have the time to check every corner of the map like I usually do. But as far as I've seen, the city is great, and for some reason I'm seeing like a lot of familiar places. Maybe because I'm a weeb and some part of the map is like it's set on Japan? I might be wrong, but I think I've seen plenty of anime references across the map. If there's something I had trouble with exploring, it's probably the amount of times I had to get off my vehicle to climb a freaking building because there's one of these crows on top of it. This crows gives you Oracle Stone, and giving them to the witch rewards you with stuff, so the completionist inside me just can't help but grab every single crow that I see. Now speaking of climbing buildings, Nanali's skill allows her to walk on any surface, defying gravity, but have I ever mentioned how dank the way her point of view shifts? I mean, just take a look at some of these. I end up feeling dizzy sometimes, although there are hilarious episodes of it too. Now that I think about it, same goes for this main quest where we go through these water torrents. I'm not sure if it's just my lack of sleep, but I felt dizzy over this particular part of the quest. And the following scene was okay though. In fact, I quite enjoyed this one, not to mention the boss fight with the never-ending Arachne. It was very interactive, not just a simple hack and slash boss fight. I sure hope they work on future boss fights with this much detail and please make it repeatable content, because when I tried fighting her again as the weekly boss, she got less movesets and wasn't as intimidating as the one on the main quest. Basically got nerfed to the ground. Speaking of quests, finishing a main quest sometimes opens up a spin-off or a side quest, and when you complete them, some of the characters involved will show up on the band tab. Completing spin-offs are also tied to unlocking A6 for some of the characters, so they are required if you want to max out some of your characters' awakening. Giving gifts to your friends on the bond tab will increase their affection, and raising bond level of units can result in various rewards such as custom skins for that particular character. Completing a side quest and unlocking an NPC as a friend is also possible, like this humble tofu shop owner. Raising his bond level unlocked another quest, and I bet the same applies for other characters and NPCs as well. Most gifts can be bought on shops around the map, but you can also buy this handwritten letter on the mall, which will give 2,000 affection points to any unit. The mall is also where we can use the premium currency Anolith to exchange for gacha pulls like the solid dice for featured banner, fabricated dice for standard banners, and the tri-key used for pulling arcs, or even straight up buying some of them over here. Moving on to the gacha system, which is actually quite unique because once you click on any of the banners, you will be brought to a game board where you can use your dices. Okay, so one pull is equal to one dice roll, and you can end up on any of these spaces depending on your luck. I'm not quite sure of the rates on these boxes yet, but it's safe to say that the purple box is equal to trash, and the yellow box is a slightly better trash. Somewhere along the way you will be getting warp and lost pieces, which if we go back to the mall, it is what we use to exchange for either more pulls or just straight up buy S-rank standard characters. Going back to the board, there are mini games inside the mini game. First one is to catch this rabbit within 3 turns. At least that's what I think it is. It's quite difficult to accomplish since it all depends on your luck, and it also moves 2 tiles every time you roll a dice, but if you do catch it, it will reward you with 30 warp pieces. Next, if you land on this square with an arrow pointing to the left, you will be crossing the rainbow bridge where most of the spaces contain gold boxes and one tile having either 5 limited or standard banner dice. On the right side, however, one tile will have an S-rank unit, and if you get lucky, you can get an early PT. After 70 rice dolls, After 70 dice rolls, if you still haven't gotten an S-rank unit, the board gets angry at your skill issue and it will spawn lots of S-rank unit cards across the board. If you're still unlucky, then the hard PT is going to be 90 dice rolls. By the way, as of this beta, there is no 50-50, so when you win, either that's an early or hard PT, you will be given the featured character on the banner. Honestly, the board game idea for the gacha is quite unique, and inserting minigames inside it is also good because that opens up possibilities for more different minigames in the future, or they can even change the layout of the board itself every now and then. Not having the 50-50 on featured banners does sound nice, but do not forget that this is still a gacha game, so always expect that there's a catch to that feature as well. Like for instance, they might cut back on the amount of pulls that you can get every patch. If that's the case and you have terrible luck, it's going to be tough to get at least 80 pulls for each banner, so good luck being a Pokemon master. While we're already at it, let's dive more into the gacha aspect of the game. NTE's daily missions are very simple and you can clear them all in less than 10 minutes. The city commissions, however, that I can see becoming tedious after a few days. I hope they work on something aside from delivery missions, or better yet, just allow quick clear after completing a certain amount of city commissions. There's also the option of just making it a weekly thing where you can just rush a week's worth of reward in a single day. The weekly bosses aren't that much of a problem either, as long as you have your characters all leveled up. As for the farming, I've already mentioned it earlier, but I think aside from upgrade materials farming, the grind for console cartridge and modules is going to be the most challenging part because it's going to be RNG on top of RNG on top of RNG. Now that's going to be annoying as always, but you're gonna have to keep farming because these extra substats are going to help you in clearing the endgame contents. And of course, it will also improve your overall combat experience as well. So far, the only content that can be categorized as part of the endgame is this anomaly zone called Beyond the Rails. You're gonna have to go inside this ghost train station where you will meet Miss Levi, and she will be the NPC that will give you a quest in order to gain access to the ghost train. The quest itself is pretty simple. You're going to take a qualification test to get a train ticket issued by the Bureau of Anomaly Control. The test consists of the theoretical and practical exam. No worries for the dialogue skippers, since you can just try again even if you get the wrong answers. It literally won't allow you to give a wrong answer, so just follow your gut in answering the questions and you'll finish it in no time. As for the practical exam, it's just a test run of the content where you will be tasked to clear the first stage or station. Once you're done with that, report back to the people in charge and you'll be free to use the ghost train moving forward. Now for the mechanics. It will be your typical defeat all enemies type of thing within a certain amount of time. Stations 1 to 3 only requires one team, but for Station 4 and above, we're gonna need two separate teams for the inbound and outbound stages. Inbound stages will consist of two waves of anomalies, and upon clearing both waves, we will be brought to the outbound stage, which is a boss fight. Mind you that the 5-minute requirement for 3 stars is the time consumed for both stages, so basically you get 2 minutes and 30-second clearance for each stage. Before starting the stage, you get to choose a companion for your group, and the companion will not be part of the teams. However, they can provide a damage buff for characters that have the same element as them. Aside from that, you can also buy and equip any of these buffs to either your inbound or outbound team. When you're all set, you will enter the train and it will take you to this instance dungeon where the inbound stage will commence. The rewards for every 3 stars are amulets and beetle coins, another basic currency for character and item upgrades which I forgot to mention. I did manage to barely clear the last stage with this setup, but all of these characters are upgraded to the limit with decent cartridges and modules. Not to mention, all of them are A6 as well. I know skill issue is a factor that affected my clear time, but I think the enemy's HP are just way too spongy. It's basically a DPS check. Last and not least, I was thinking of including character design as one of the topics to discuss, but I'm not really one to be particular about character designs. I mean, I've played a lot of gachas, and to be honest, at this point where the gacha space is so saturated, it's really hard not to compare or see resemblance of old characters from a new one, so creating a design that will be satisfactory to the majority is quite difficult. If I were to pick one that I liked best from these characters, I guess it would be Hotori, the Master of Avon, since I see a combination of Lan and Jiyu from Tower of Fantasy. But aside from that, the other characters doesn't really stand out that much for me. The MC's design improved by a lot though compared to what I've seen from the previous beta. Alright, I think I covered pretty much everything now, so to wrap things up, here's a summary of what I think about Neverness to Everness. I really like the unique setting with the urban life, the anomalies being mysterious or sometimes creepy, and the somewhat Japan-like ambience. Buying and owning different properties like houses, business, and vehicles are definitely one of the strengths of the game. Combat is straightforward and the gacha system is interesting, although removing 50-50 is a bold move. As for the weaknesses, number 1 is the janky combat, and there are times when the game stutters. Currently, there's too few premium currencies, so they really need to add more side quests and rewards in the overworld, like maybe more chests and more bounty hunts for anomalies. This will make exploration more rewarding and fun. Honestly, the game just needs more stuff to do, like repeatable mini-games that hooks the players. Maybe something like Gwent from Witcher 3. And I just want to squeeze in maybe customizable clothes for the MC and the gang, because there's literally plenty of shops in the overworld and not a single one of them sells clothes. I think this is an opportunity. They can make it a skin or something, and hopefully you can buy some of them using fonts. I mean, I don't mind if some of them will require you to swipe your card. There's plenty of people who would be willing to do that. Not me though. Anyways, I think that's it for this video. I might post more NTE clips that I got from the beta, but no more guides or reviews after this. I'm so tired, bro. See you guys on CBT3, I guess. Ciao.